Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. It's Thursday night.
Sure. Yeah.
It's front office Friday Eve, I suppose.
It's front office overtime.
That's right. That's right. Welcome in, everybody. It is indeed front office overtime. I was hoping maybe we could coax a yell out of Keith, but I know you rest up all week. You get ready for Friday when we do unleash the official yell. But we had so much going on today, stuff that we needed to break down, that we decided let's just go live tonight and let's talk about some of it. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, today was a little quiet, which I needed. I needed like a full-scale catch-up day. It was great. We were able to get all of the outstanding trade exceptions updated on Spot Track today. Went through all of the teams' remaining exceptions and got those updated. And those are all updated and ready to go. We're still working on a couple things with the trade machine, but it's back up and running. So it was a really nice catch-up day for just getting things plugged in and making sure we're ticking and tying out our numbers and all that, because whether it be here on our show or over on Spot Track, we want to make sure we're as spot on accurate as we can be. So we're pretty happy right now that we had a little bit of time to breathe and catch up.
Spot on for Spot Track. Yeah, I like it.
Let's go.
All right, we've got a bunch of topics to get into, courtesy primarily of our guy Mark Stein, who dropped a fantastic piece on his Substack that has a lot of trade info, rumors, and things like that. So that's where a lot of this is going to come from. Not all of it, but a lot of it. But let's start with this.
Hold on. Where
is Studio Stu? He is passed out. He is asleep. I came into the studio. Normally when I come into the studio, he wakes up and he beats me to the door, like trying to trip me on his way there. But he is dead to the world at the moment. He is taking not a cat nap, but this is like a cat slumber. That's how deep this sleep is.
Perfect. Well, maybe he'll make an appearance a little bit later.
He might indeed.
So let me address this, because it comes up every time I wear the hat. It's not a FUBU hat. It's a stylized F, and it's an FA, not for free agency, but it really stands for Foundation Academy. That's where my daughter goes to school. So people think it's a John Morant hat, but it isn't. It's a stylized F, and the A for Foundation Academy, and those are like lion claws or something, because they're the Lions, the FA Lions.
There we go. There we go. There
now,
it is.
To basketball.
Let's do it. All right. So we'll start here. Heat won't trade or extend Jimmy Butler. So they won't extend him. They won't trade him. Does that mean unhappy Jimmy?
It may, right? We'll see with that. I think the challenge here is I think the Heat are trying to be somewhat responsible. They know Bam Adebayo's on the books, Tyler Hero's on the books. They've got a couple other contracts to work around for now, but they are just in a position where it is a spot where they have said, we're not giving in to his trade request because they want him and they need him. And who's going to probably jump in on him right now anyway. I don't know that a team is right there, but I think they're also in a spot where it is, we don't necessarily want to give him a max extension right now. So that leaves the teams kind of there. Who knows what that means for him going into season? I would assume he'll just kind of put it behind him to try to play it out and have a really strong year to go into free agency. Quick sneak peek, though. I did my first run, and they'll be up later this week, or maybe this weekend or beginning of next week, because we're already on Thursday. But it's cap space next summer. Not good. Not good at all. I only project 5 teams to be cap space teams next summer, and none of them have max cap space for a 10-year service veteran right now. Now, things will obviously change between now and then, but as we're standing right now, it is not going to be a summer where a ton of teams are going to have a lot of money to spend, because teams have locked into extensions and the like and those kind of things.
Is there anyone worth spending that money on? I have not taken a peek at next summer's free agency. Do you know off the top of your head, is there anybody in particular that you look at and say, wow, that's a guy that you want to hoard cap space for?
Yeah, it's a pretty weak free agent class too. So I
Makes
think
sense.
teams are kind of lining it up a little bit new. All right, we can kind of load up here this 1 year, and then we'll let it kind of play out for a year with the new CBA, the aprons, all that stuff. We'll get into it. We'll figure it out, and then a couple years in, when the cap has gone up and then goes up again, then maybe they'll play a little bit with the free agent portion. But as it stands right now, no, not a pretty weak free agent class. That's kind of next on my list. I'll be working on that throughout the course of the weekend.
Those two things do tend to go hand in hand because teams do look ahead multiple summers.
Yep.
And so you typically find when there's very little cap space available, there's usually a reason for that, or very little teams with cap space. It's because there's not a lot out there in free agency for them to go target.
Exactly.
Jimmy Butler extension eligible right now, but just to put a bow on this, he's got a player option for over $52 million next summer. We'll see where that goes, but he's already 35. If I'm Miami, I totally understand the reluctance to give him that long-term, particularly if it's a max extension off of this. And if I'm an opposing team, I don't know if I want to trade for him. It's kind of similar. We're going to talk about in a minute, but kind of similar to the Brandon Ingram situation, where do you want to be the team to give him that next contract if he's expecting max level money? I understand the hesitation. That's the new market that we're in. That's in part the new CBA. But I think Jimmy and Miami just wind up being stuck, even if he's not super happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna see. Maybe this is one where if, like, let's say things really go wrong for the Heat this year and they're really struggling out of the gate and they're having a hard time around the trade deadline, maybe a team says, all right, we'll go all in on Jimmy Butler as the guy who can put us over the top and really get us into title contention. Maybe that could be a thing we see. But as it stands right now, this is going to be one where let's get into the, probably next summer or a year from now, and we're going to start to get a little more clarity, because this just isn't an easy situation to work through.
All right, let's jump over to Cleveland. So play significantly colder. A max deal potentially coming for Evan Mobley. And I think it is going to be that max contract. We just saw Cade Cunningham get his deal. I think Evan Mobley is going to get his as well. And we talked about this the other day, that this is kind of the expectation that the Cavs are going to do what they need to do to lock up Evan Mobley. They've got their core here. The Darius Garland trade demand that we thought may be coming, that has not materialized as of this point, or at least not publicly, in the wake of the Donovan Mitchell deal. So it does seem like the Cavs are pretty set with their core of Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and then off they go.
Yeah, exactly. I think Mobley too. Brian Windhorst had this report. This was he did a radio appearance on ESPN Cleveland, and one of the things he came back with here was that expect Mobley to get the max extension, because that's what Cunningham got, that's what Barnes got, that's what Franz Wagner got. He's going to want that too. And I think Evan Mobley is absolutely right to ask for that. He's at least as accomplished as all of those guys, minus Barnes, who has made an all-star team now, but he's like right there. And Mobley, I'm thinking will also get that designated language, Rose Rule language, where if he makes All-NBA or wins Defensive Player of the Year, or wins MVP, but that's not going to happen. But makes All-NBA, wins Defensive Player of the Year, it can bump him up to that 30% marker. And why he should want that is he's a guy who I think I've probably said this here before, but he could win Defensive Player of the Year. I wouldn't necessarily pick him to, but he's somebody who could do that at the beginning of next year, but his odds will be probably middle of the pack. And he's definitely somebody who could put that together if they have a great season and he's kind of driving everything behind their defense. Like, yeah, I could see him getting there.
Just like we caution everybody that not all first round picks are created equal. The same is true with max contracts. A guy coming off a rookie max that, we're talking about 25% versus a veteran, a 10-year plus guy. Very, very different in terms of a max salary. So when you look at guys like Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, we say, are those like top 5, top 10 guys in the NBA? No, but are they worth a max? Yes, because their max is different than the max for a Kevin Durant or someone of that nature. So that's something that's important that we remember. Just like we see, just the term first round pick tends to carry with it this just kind of inherent value when we're having these conversations. without recognition of the fact that there's actually a very wide range of values within a first round pick. And the same is true for max contracts, maybe not quite to the same degree, but a max deal for a guy coming off a rookie contract, guy like Evan Mobley, to me, that's a no-brainer. You're getting that done as soon as you can if you're Cleveland.
Yeah. It's you don't mess around here because all you're going to do is make them mad, and you don't need to do that. We've seen how that goes wrong, and you often don't want to let these guys. Yeah, absolutely. Light spike. Let's go.
Let's go.
You don't want to see people go into restricted free agency. Oftentimes that becomes like the challenge. Hey, go into restricted free agency. Whatever you get, we'll match. Well, that's gotten ugly at times where it turns into the other team says, all right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to give him a player option. So at worst, in 3 years, he becomes a free agent. And then the player's like, remember when you maybe go make you match a deal? Guess what? Now I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm walking away. And I don't know that Mobley's necessarily ever going to be the kind of guy that teams are like 2-3 years out. We got to line everything up because Evan Mobley will be a free agent in a couple years. He may not get to those levels, but I thought last year in the playoff series against Orlando and then against Boston, when he was having to play the 5 because Jared Allen was out, I thought we saw, all right, Evan Mobley can really do this. He can anchor a defense all by himself. So I would have no problem handing him a max and just moving on. You're going to have to make a decision down the line. It's probably going to cost you Jared Allen. But if you trade Jared Allen to rebalance your roster a little bit, get some wing help, maybe you eventually have to make a decision on Garland and Mitchell. But for now, I would 100% give Mobley the max and move on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what's coming. All right. I mean, this is what we completely expected, but Kyle Lowry back to Philadelphia. The 76ers obviously now assembling a roster around Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Kyle Lowry ultimately landing back with the 76ers. Again, what we expected to happen, and now it has come to pass. He'll give them another veteran guard to add in there. What do you think about what the 76ers have built up to this moment?
Yeah, I like it. They've still got a few spots to fill out. Still not a full roster there. You just pulled it up, but pretty solid. You've got my guess is those top 5 guys are your 5 starters next year: Embiid, George, Maxey, Martin, and Oubre. That's kind of fun because what you've done is you've got your center over here, you got your point guard here. Then in the middle, it's 3 guys who are all roughly the same size that are extremely switchable, and you can play them kind of however you want to. And I think that's really huge for the Sixers to have that versatility, because in years past, they haven't necessarily had that. They've often played with 2 smaller guards because Maxey played off the ball, or even Harden was such a weird fit because defensively kind of plays almost more like a power forward in ways than he does any kind of guard. But now, you get Lowry back in the fold. Eric Gordon gives you a little bit of scoring punch. I like Jared McCain a lot. I think he's going to eventually be really good. And I love Andre Drummond behind Joel Embiid. Most nights when Embiid's healthy, that's a luxury for 10, 15 minutes for that game. But on the nights when Embiid misses, you plug Drummond in and you just keep moving. They need another big for sure. They need probably one more wing to really round things out, but those will be the minimum signings now. And what they can offer is it's almost kind of like buyout season, right? Like we can only offer you the minimum, but what we can offer you is playing time and role on a contender. And that's generally kind of swings it for a lot of those guys that are filtering through minimum offers.
Keith, when I'm looking at Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre Jr., Andre Drummond, what mechanisms are we using here to sign these guys? I mean, I'm assuming one's cap space, one's a room exception. How does all of this break, or how do you think they're going to actually or maybe they've already executed it? How does that all work out?
Yeah, so just a tip for I probably have never told you this, but if you see it, if it's not in purple, that means it's done.
It's done,
and we have verified the number on Spot Track. So what they ultimately did was Paul George and Caleb Martin and Andre Drummond were all signed with cap space. Kelly Oubre Jr. got the room exception. And then Jared McCain was a rookie scale signing, and Gordon and Lowry were minimum signings. And then Embiid Council were holdovers, and then Maxey obviously was signed using his bird rights to give him the full max.
Oh, that's right. dumb. The whole deal was Tyrese Maxey was on his small cap hold, and that's what gave them the cap. Yes, that's right. The math in my head wasn't mathing, and I'm like, wait, oh, that's right. He's not really at 35 million. When they did all this, he was far below that.
And we plug just little general knowledge maybe for people. When reporters tweet out that a player signed a 1-year deal and they don't put a number to it, that generally means it's the veteran minimum. That's just usually how it works because they don't necessarily really want a number out there because it's kind of like I already took the absolute smallest deal he could possibly get. So we plugged them in. Kyle Lowry, technically, they had his non-bird rights and they could have given him a little bump in salary, but it doesn't look like they did that. And I don't know why they would bother because you probably don't need to. So, but they may have. We'll know that in a few days once that deal is all signed and fully official.
All right, let's go here. The markets for Lowry Markkanen and Brandon Ingram, two very different places. Lowry Markkanen has a lot of interest around the NBA. Brandon Ingram, not so much. Some of that I know is injury history. Some of that is just the way they are as players and their production. But some of it also is there's a sense that Brandon Ingram wants a lot of money on his next contract. And so teams are factoring that in when they're looking at making trades with the Pelicans. So our guy, Mark Stein, threw out there that, okay, do the Pelicans look to extend Ingram? Is that the better path, to simply extend him rather than risk losing him for nothing? Or do you let him play out this final year? And I'll pull out the Pels cap sheet in just a moment. Or do you let him play this final year and then potentially risk losing him for nothing this next coming summer? How do the Pelicans approach this?
Yeah, I really don't know. I there was points in the summer where, or I guess even leading up to the summer, where it felt like, all right, well, maybe they'll move Ingram for Darius Garland. I think they would love to move Ingram for like Jared Allen in a deal like that right now, but that doesn't seem something that Cleveland really wants to do, even though that's kind of sneakily a trade I think might still be workable for both teams. But the problem is then they have to turn around and sign him. And then you'd have Mitchell, Garland, Ingram, and Mobley all on maxes. You basically have locked yourself into being a second apron team. And they don't have like the backfill guys behind those guys. And those four guys haven't proven like that they can do more than be a good regular season team when around in the playoffs. So that's where you get kind of stuck. So it's really going to come down to one of two things. Either a team is going to have to be standing here in like a week or so with, all right, Markkanen's not here, or maybe it's in a month when Markkanen's able to do this renegotiation and extension. So maybe what happens if he comes off the board, team may be like, all right, we need a wing. We really need it. Brandon Ingram can help us, and we're willing to talk with him about what the next contract is. Otherwise, we're probably going to be in wait and see mode, and this may carry into next season. Here's the issue for the Pelicans. Cap sheet's okay. It's a little unbalanced, but not the end of the world. Here's the bigger problem, I think, for them is right now they have no center, but Zion, Ingram, McCollum, Murray, Jones, and Murphy. That's 6 guys that all should probably be starting. And you don't have a center. In Zion, you can get away with playing Zion minutes at the 5, but you're not starting games like that. Your defense would be that. Herb Jones would have to cover everybody to be, anything you're approaching a good defense. And there's your problem. Like that's your biggest issue right now. The roster's just not balanced.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm pulling up the Hawks salary sheet because there were some rumblings that the Hawks might make a move for Brandon Ingram using Clint Capella. But when we forget about contracts, you go, wait, they could get Brandon Ingram for Clint Capella. Like that sounds great, right? Sure. That's fantastic. I think Brandon Ingram is the better player if both players are healthy. Not to say Clint Capella is bad, but I would rather have Brandon Ingram. But then when you factor in Capella's on an expiring $22 million contract, the value that has, the flexibility that offers in the league right now, whereas Brandon Ingram, you're going to have to sign him to this big deal, and he's played in 64 games this last season. That's the most he's played since his rookie year. That it's a major deterrent to the trade process if you're going to demand a max contract. That's what Brandon Ingram is going to want. And I think that's what we saw break down here with the Hawks. And And the Pelicans, because you're right, they definitely need a center. If they can turn Brandon Ingram into a center, even if talent-wise, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a downgrade to go to Brandon Ingram to Clint Capella, that's still a move that you have to consider making if you're the Pelicans. But I get it from the Hawks side. You're thinking, well, sure, we could do this, but do we want to be the team that's got to pay this guy on his next contract? And that is really creating a situation where now it may be BI and the Pels looking at each other and just saying, it is what it is. And let's see how it plays out this season. But where do the Pelicans go then to get their starting center? Because I can tell you what, I thought they got a good deal on Daniel Tice, but I'm sure they're not seeing him and thinking that's our starter right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, ideally not. Scroll back down real quick to where you were on the page here. That's good. Right there works. Here's your issue too. DeAndre Hunter, small forward. A lot of money locked up in him. Zachary Sachet, the number 1 overall pick, small forward. The future of your franchise. Jalen Johnson, small forward, needs to be signed this summer. What is Brandon Ingram? Ideally a small forward. Yeah, you can, in today's NBA, you could play any combo of 2 of those guys together and just call them combo forwards and you'd be fine. But that's 4 guys now that all overlap at the same spot. It doesn't work. And then even if you said, well, maybe we slide Ingram over to the 2, or maybe Sachet could be a 2. Well, you still have Bogdan Bogdanovic there on pretty good size money. That's where it starts to fall apart for a team like this. We mentioned Cleveland. It really is. I spent probably a solid hour today going through looking for who could trade for Jimmy Butler or who could trade for Brandon Ingram, because similar type positions, right? Similar type of contracts. And I couldn't come up with clean fits for either of them. There are certainly teams that could do it, but there were none that jumped out where it's like, there it is. That's there's the trade that fully makes sense, because teams have moved on. Like the Darius Garland to New Orleans stuff doesn't make sense anymore. Now they have DeJounte Murray and they have CJ McCollum still. So that's not really a fit. So it's probably going to take a little bit here. Somebody threw at me just completely out of nowhere, what if they traded Ingram to Portland and said, hey, you figure it out. We'll take DeAndre Ayton back. Maybe, somebody else threw out, what if they said, we'll take Rob Williams and Matisse Thybulle and whatever filler you have to give us, and we'll make that work, and you figure out Ingram. Where that falls apart is, does Portland just let him expire? Does Portland want to sign him? It becomes really hard on the Portland side. They probably would need incentivize. I just don't know if they're going to get the deal back that they want, where that returns pick value to the Pelicans. I saw some people saying, shouldn't they get at least what Toronto got for Pascal Siakam? In theory, yes. And that was ultimately turned out to be 3 late first round picks. So maybe, I guess, but I don't know anybody who's given up even 3 late first round picks right now for Brandon Ingram.
I don't have it in front of me, but I would have to imagine that Siakam has played more games in the last few years than Brandon
100%.
Ingram has. So I think that's a big part of this too for teams. You look at the Pelicans and they say, okay, well, we've had issues with Zion Williamson with his injuries. We have the same thing with Brandon Ingram. That's a hurdle as well. And not just for the Pels, but for other teams bringing him in. Hey, if he's only going to play 60 games a season, can we really feel good about giving him a max contract? So it's a tricky spot. Conversely, Lauri Markkanen, I mean, again, I've said it a million times now, Danny Ainge sitting there smiling like the Cheshire Cat. He's just bringing in the offers. And if nothing else, I don't even know if he's going to trade Markkanen. They may wind up doing that extension. What is it? I think August 6th is the date.
Yep.
They can extend him, but and still be trade eligible for one whole day ahead of the trade deadline. But if you're Danny Ainge, if you're the Utah Jazz, you're sitting there at the worst case, you're just taking in all kinds of information as teams are throwing ideas at you about Lauri Markkanen. It's a very different situation between the two.
Yeah, you're just sitting there saying, all right, keep throwing your offers. And then it's, hey, this team's offering this. You want to sweeten the pot a little bit and just keep going back to people, because there's no rush for the Jazz. If they're going to move Markkanen, doesn't really behoove them to do it right now today. There's no reason to do that. They can just kind of keep things going, and no matter who it is they want to work with here, and it's either going to be you're going to give us young talent, draft picks, or both to get this guy, and then that's where it goes. A lot of people have asked if a team acquires him, can they then renegotiate and extend him? They can't, because to renegotiate and extend a player, we had a question on this in the chat, so I'll answer it now. You have to have cap space to be able to do that. That's only Utah and Detroit right now, and Detroit's not in on Markkanen, so it's really only Utah. So what Utah would have to do, renounce a bunch of their free agents, not really an issue there because most of them are completely out there and available anyway. Then they can use whatever cap space they want to bring Markkanen all the way up to his max for this year if they wanted to. That'd be about 24 million of their cap space. They could get him all the way up to that number. Then what they do with Markkanen is they turn around and then add years on. Now, the Kings did this via bringing Domantas Sabonis up to his max and then extending him off of that at a big number. The Indiana Pacers a couple years back did it with Miles Turner, and what they did was they brought him all the way up to, not all the way to his max, but pretty close, and then they used a structure, which is what Orlando did with Jonathan Isaac, which is then they basically cut a large chunk of his salary off the next year. Think of it, the closest thing I could think of it is this is like a big signing bonus where we're going to give you a whole bunch of money now because we can, and then we're going to have you on a lower, more manageable, reasonable number. But in Markkanen's case, Markkanen might be looking at it and saying, hey, next year's free agent class stinks. If I hit free agency, I might be the one dude who can pull a max next year. So he's probably not given any kind of real long-term discounts to Utah in this situation. So let's see what happens, ultimately, with this. But my guess is probably gets moved here sooner rather. No, I shouldn't say sooner rather than later. Let's just say gets moved at some point within the next, let's call it 3-4 weeks before that renegotiation date. Because here's the other thing. Renegotiation date is August 6th. That makes him untradeable for 6 months. When does that lift? February 6th, which is trade deadline day. So they are not going to want to do it August 7th or 8th. If they're going to renegotiate them, they're going to do it on the day they're eligible, just to be in a position to have that trade option open to them on February 6th at the trade deadline, if that's where they want to go. I should be upfront. February 6th is what we're assuming the trade deadline is. I don't know that that's been fully made official, but that matches the timing of the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, that's right about when it would be. Well, that'll be fascinating to see how this plays out. Now, I know the Warriors are a team that's been interested in Markkanen. They could put together a pretty interesting package, but compared to Brandon Ingram, I mean, Lauri Markkanen has such a wide market. There's any number of teams that could get in there. And it seems like right now the Warriors are the leader in the clubhouse to potentially pull off it if there's going to be a deal made. There might not be, but if there's going to be a deal made, it seems like it'll be Golden State. What are your thoughts on that idea for Golden State to go after Markkanen, potentially surrendering some significant assets to get it done?
Yeah, my guess is it would probably have to be Kuminga and Wiggins. Just to kind of start to move the needle. Wiggins would be the primary salary match, and then Kuminga would be the get in that trade for Golden State. But I would love that for the Warriors because I think that'd be a really good pickup for them. I think he'd be a huge upgrade over Wiggins because now you just plug him into your starting group and off you go there, and then now you've got all kinds of offensive options with Curry and Markkanen kind of running 2-man games and Draymond Green doing his thing and all that. So yeah, I'd be all in on that move. If I was the Warriors, yeah, it would be rough to give up Kuminga. The question I have is, what are you going to pay him anyway on his next deal? How much are you going to extend him for? And they may be in a position where they say, man, we're just starting to dig out of this. Do we really want to go in for 30 plus million on Jonathan Kuminga? Like, when he's had moments and he had a pretty nice year last year, but let's see where that goes. So I think that would be the tricky part for the Warriors is it kind of ultimately in the end comes down to you got to give something to get something, right? You can't just say, well, we want him, so here's Andrew Wiggins. Like, you're gonna have to give something of value. They have tradable picks for sure that they can move. So we'll see with that. Somebody asked, and I assume it was related to what I was talking about with the Jazz. Let me pull it up here. Seth F asked, what does it mean for a team to renounce? It's renounce. It may sound like I'm saying re-announce, but it's renounce. So what renounce? So keep it here.
Yes, I love the 44-year-old Matt Barnes on the books.
Right. Yeah. So if what this means is these are not salaries that these guys are being paid by any means. What these are cap holds. So when you renounce a player's cap hold, you just wipe it off your books. So what that means is you got rid of it. So Philly, for example, this summer, Philly had like Robert Covington and Nick Batum and Tobias Harris and all these guys that had pretty good sized cap holds. You can't sign free agents when you have cap holds. So what you do if you're going to use cap space, you renounce all of your free agent rights or most of them. You'll wipe those off the books, and that's what frees up cap space. And people always ask, like, for example, why is Matt Barnes and David West and Andre Iguodala and Andrew Bogut, why are these guys all sitting on the books for the Warriors still? The Warriors have been nowhere near using cap space, so you have no reason to renounce these guys. You don't do it until you need to. So some of these guys will sit. Guys like Garuba and Quinones, those guys were on the roster last year. And Jerome Robinson, that's why they don't carry out beyond this year. We do that when the season starts, or when it becomes clear, all right, they're probably not gonna do anything with those guys now. Then we'll add the future years out. That's why it's like that on here, in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, if you never drop below the cap, then you wind up with situations like this where you have some funny names that pop up. Yeah. I'm curious. I don't know. Like, maybe you would probably have a better idea. Like, what's the most bizarre name that's still sitting on someone's cap holds right now? Like, I mean, Matt Barnes at 44, David West, who's been retired for a long time. Like, there's got to be one where somebody's got a guy who's like 50 years old or something.
So, like, not super old, but like the one that always makes me laugh is like Jared Dudley still has a cap hold on the Lakers books.
Yep.
Even though
I know about that. I saw that one the other day
for the Mavs. Right. So like that one always kind of makes me chuckle. Rodney Hood, if you remember him.
Oh, wow.
He's still floating out there. Greg Monroe and Evan Turner are still on the books for the Timberwolves. Richard Jefferson has been retired for a couple years and a broadcaster, still on the books for the Nuggets. Those are some of the more kind of fun ones.
Right.
OKC had Nick Collison for years, and then when they dipped under the cap last year, they finally renounced Nick Collison.
Reluctantly.
That's always a fun. Yeah, exactly. That's always a fun tweet to do. I don't know if you saw this. The Orlando Magic, they had a couple old cap holds, but the Orlando Magic renounced the first round draft rights to Fran Vasquez, who they drafted.
In like 2011,
2005.
It was that long ago.
Him.
Oh my gosh,
19 years ago, and they finally renounced his draft.
I'm
rights. There, yeah. There's people are throwing out some guys in the chat. Somebody said the Lakers didn't have Aaron McKee. Yeah, they had Aaron McKee sitting on the books forever. Yep. They had to renounce a whole bunch of guys when they signed LeBron that summer because they went cap space. So they had some really old ones. The Celtics, the year they got it was the year they got Al Horford. That was their first big cap space year in like 20 plus years. They renounced guys like Dana Barros and Shaquille O'Neal from his 1 year. So yeah,
that's right.
Cap holds always make me laugh. They're always kind of funny, and it's just fun to put that tweet out there.
Yeah.
When it's like they renounced this guy, but the Fran Vasquez one got like a ton of play. I actually had outlets from Spain because he's Spanish. Reach out to me. They're like, hey, can you explain like this situation for our readers? And he's actually retired already. Like
it doesn't mean anything really.
I'm like, it just means like the Magic can't bring him over now, even though So funny thing, sore spot for Orlando Magic fans.
Yeah,
because he said for like 7 consecutive seasons, I'll come over to the NBA when I feel I'm ready. And then like Magic fans are like, every year with this guy, like he's never gonna play in the NBA. And guess what? Never did.
Did. They spent that pick on him and they never came over.
He's only one of 2 lottery picks to never play in the NBA. The other one, super sad story, Ben Bynes. never got a shot in the NBA. But everybody else who's been a lottery pick at least came and played at least a single season in the NBA. In the NBA.
Yeah, that was a infamous moment in draft history with Fran Vasquez, ultimately never actually playing in the league. But
no waste of a pick.
Right. All right. Let's go here, Evan Fournier. We've got a few more news topics to finish up, and then we'll get into
questions. Yep.
Some chat questions. We'll go rapid fire through some of those. Evan Fournier to Washington. There's potentially some interest there. He's still, I mean, again, we talk about the negativity based on the return on investment in terms of what a player provides versus their contract. Sometimes that negativity can cause us to evaluate, I suppose, or underrate what a player actually provides. And I think that's the case with Evan Fournier, where he could provide something on the floor. Just there was a lot of negativity around him because people went, oh, he's not worth his contract. Well, no, but he's still a solid player. But interesting that he would be looking at potentially going to the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, it's one of the things. This was one of Mark Stein's notes. One of the things Mark Stein noted: Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr, both French too. So maybe that's part of the connection there. Help him come in. My guess is this will probably be. Let's see what he looks like in the next. Either he signs like a minimum deal ahead of the Olympics, or maybe he plays really well in the Olympics, and then maybe he can get a little bit more money. Not what we would normally play the breaking news drop, but we haven't gotten to play it in a while. Hit that breaking news drop.
Okay. All right. Let me remove that first. Sorry, I know this is not. Here we go.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
There we go.
Per Shams Charania, Josh Okogie has agreed on a 2-year, $16 million deal to stay with the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh, $16 million?
Yes. Here's what this is. The Suns are turning him into basically a walking trade exception.
Yes, sir.
What they are looking for is we need somebody who makes about $8 million that we can turn around and trade down the line. If we need to, we can kind of do something like this. So they're giving him a bump. This is not enough where it turns Okogie into like a bad contract or untradeable. My guess is that second season is either
not
team option or non-guaranteed. It'll be one of the two. And that turns him into like a trade exception where he gets like $8 million to be there. And that's not a super wide range of players for the Suns to go get, but that's like anybody who makes the room exception or less this year. They'll be able to make a trade using Okogie as that single salary. Because remember, second apron team, they're restricted that they cannot move more than one player out at a time in a trade. So we're doing it. We get it. A couple people are like, "Come on, that's not real news. It's fun. We're having fun." Come on.
Yeah. We haven't look. Things have slowed down.
Yeah,
we've had to lower the bar in terms of what yields the breaking news drop. Come on, Keith. I'm sure you don't have this number in front of you, but the first thought of my head is, what does it cost the Suns in terms of real dollars they have to pay out when you add in the tax in order to give Josh Okogie turn him into this $8 million trade chip? Because I'd imagine that's probably not cheap.
My guess is they're going to be in the range of now Shams.
There it is, non-guaranteed in second season.
So makes perfect sense that it would be there with that. The interesting thing is just I'll cap nerd here for a minute. If it is truly non-guaranteed, they can just up and trade him because that is a 2-year deal. If it is a team option, which often gets kind of conflated with non-guaranteed in options, he would have to waive his implied no trade clause, which they could probably get him to do. Because let's face it, they give him $8 million. I think they're in the $4 to $5 per dollar range. I'd have to run it, and I don't have the thing up that I need to run it with. But they're at, before re-signing him, they're at $214 million in team salary. So they're like $43 million over the luxury tax line right now and change. So you add this one in, they're going to be over $50 million over the luxury tax line. So yeah, probably in the range of, let's say, 32 to 40 million in real dollars on that.
Lighting money on fire in that desert heat in Phoenix. Wow. We'll see if that pays off for them, if they're able to move that contract or not. And a big deal. If it yields a player that puts them over the top at the trade deadline, it'll be worth it. But interesting gamble here by the Suns. That's a lot. A lot of owners would not do that. A lot of owners would not say, I'm going to pay this much for this team right now and go into this tax and everything and add a guy that really is just going to be a walking trade chip for us.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You would not. You would get a lot of teams would say, yeah, let's move on. Let's do a minimum or anything like that. I think Okogie, what's good is like he can also play a little bit of a role. He was pretty good for them a couple years ago, and then last year kind of fell off a little bit. So I could see that going into a spot where he actually plays and it gives them some minutes. Do me a favor, and then I got to ask you when we're off to teach me how to do this. Go to Spot Track, and go to NBA, and then like contracts. And then we can pull it up and we can order it by everybody who makes like less than 8 million. We can get down there and just get a sense of there with that. So
okay. You want me to just scroll down here?
Yeah.
Or is there a way to actually put in
no, you're in go to in the drop down on the left. Boy, this is fantastic radio. On the left there.
Yeah.
Do just this year.
Okay.
There we go.
And then we
we're not in the right spot. Never mind. I'll look it up later. We'll pull it up later with this because we're not. And this is going to only show us AAV. So that's fine. We'll figure it out. Guys, don't drop stuff in the chat unless it's actually real because it's not.
Yeah.
Because now I'm looking for stuff that people put in here and I'm not seeing anything. Actually,
we don't want to do that.
Yeah. Be reasonable, grown-ups, please.
All right, let's go here. Something I've talked about a bunch. Gary Trent Jr., the Lakers salary roster responsibility. So Gary Trent Jr. is a guy who's been connected to the Lakers for roughly 20 years, even though he's 25 years old. He's been connected to the Lakers forever.
Sure that wasn't his dad?
It might have been.
We're going back.
It might have been. Who knows? But the challenge for the Lakers, which is what Mark Stein talked about, is there's two challenges. Number one, they don't have any roster spots. They have 15 guaranteed contracts on the books right now. And number two, right now there's something like $45,000, which is like nothing in NBA world.
It's $45,000,
$45,000 below the second tier apron. And so the talk is, could the Lakers use a taxpayer MLE, which Stein said they are known to be out there on the market trying to dump salary in order to be able to use the taxpayer mid-level exception of about $5.2 million. But if they were to use that, they would trigger a hard cap at that second tier apron. So essentially, in order for the Lakers to have a taxpayer MLE to give to Gary Trent Jr., they would have to not only clear a roster spot in a trade, but also would have to clear up $5.2 million in order to have that to give to him. So a couple of things that would have to occur there, and it could happen in one trade, but a couple of things that would have to occur in order for the Lakers to be able to actually be a landing spot for Gary Trent Jr. as it sits right now. Even if they wanted, even if he said, yes, I'll take that money, and they said, yes, we'd like to give it to you, they can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the kind of easiest way to get there would be call the Pistons or the Jazz and say, hey, what are we going to give you to take Christian Wood and Cam Reddish or Jackson Hayes and Cam Reddish? Or and the only reason I'm picking those guys is Christian Wood plus one of those two guys. That gives you $5.4 million in savings. You're off that money. Now you have enough to use the non-taxpayer. Here's your other challenge, though. Now you're in a spot where if you use the non-taxpayer, you would be like, let's say you're probably in the range of 250-ish under the line. You'd have to carry that open roster spot for a while. Before you could fill it. Now, if you did a bigger trade, remember Max Christie can't be traded now until I think Max Christie is a January 15th one because he got a big enough raise.
You're right.
So he's a while. So you can't move him. So then you're getting into like Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Those guys are all bigger deals for me where like I want that salary to use in a bigger trade if it comes along than just a salary clearing move. So I would do the smaller move. Like if you could get Trent Jr. to say, I'll take the taxpayer MLE, whatever it's, all right, you need a second to absorb Wood and Reddish. Fine, let's go. We'll do that. Somebody's going to ask. I know they're going to say, what did I tell you? I knew it. Somebody's going to say multiple minimum players in a trade.
Only if you're taking a player back.
Stack them. Yeah, you can't stack them. So what it functionally would be is Christian Wood would be one trade. Cam Reddish would be another trade, even if they're going to the same team. It would all get reported as one trade, but that's how you would build it out.
But doesn't it also have to, a qualifier has to be that you take a player back? So if you were to trade them, let's say, I honestly don't know what roster spots Utah has off the top of my head. We can pull it in just a second. But if they had 10 players on their roster, you could trade both guys to say Utah, not take anybody back and still be okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You could trade them into their cap space. Yep. Or into anybody who has an exception, really. Like let's say for some reason Philly was like, hey, we like Christian Wood as a third big and Cam Reddish could maybe be a backup wing. Philly could take them because they're both on minimum exceptions. You just have to do them as two functionally separate trades. So
yeah,
I appreciate Thick Vitalik for asking the question there because that gave us the chance.
All right, we'll jump into the chat questions in just a moment. Last thing we've got, the Hawks are looking at potentially moving to big, but interestingly enough, rather than Clint Capella, most of the interest is in the newly acquired Larry Nance Jr. More versatility, I suppose, with Nance, and that's probably what's driving that. But nonetheless, maybe the Hawks are a team that is not done making moves, which is this time of year. The free agent market is cooling off. The trade market may indeed be heating up.
Yeah, I kind of thought when the Murray trade, it became clear it had to wait to happen in this league year versus the last one. And then it was, all right, they're going to have to expand it. I kind of thought we might see Brandon Ingram involved, maybe not direct to the Hawks, but going somewhere, and Clint Capella being routed back to New Orleans too, because that would have made a lot of sense for them. But I think that ship has probably sailed a little bit now on that being the matchup there. And Capella and Zion's on an ideal front court, but it's not bad. I mean, Zion played next to Valanciunas for his whole career, I think at this point, other than maybe a year with Steven Adams, or two, but like he's good. So yeah, I think I wouldn't have been surprised if maybe they could re-engage and go that way. But I'm with you. Larry Nance Jr. is just far more plug and play in other places. So why not go that direction? If you're a team that needs a backup big, he's probably pretty high on your list because contract's not that big, and like you said, he can kind of play even the 3 in some lineups if you need him to. I think the injuries have sapped his quickness a little, so now you're kind of probably more 4 or 5, but yeah, I would be going for him and go from there.
All right, let's we'll go through a few of these questions. We may save some of them for tomorrow. We'll see. This one, like, I'm gonna just save this one to August or something. Like, have you guys done an all-time top 10 list? And you can name the. I mean, that's
an August thing.
That's an August question, right? That's a we've ran out of stuff to talk about. When you've got people making like top 10 lists and stuff like that, we've ran out of stuff to talk about.
Can I tell you a quick story on that one?
Yeah.
One of my early columns at Real GM was when people were like super down on Kobe. And I wrote one of my early columns, Mr. Celtics guy has somehow Kobe Bryant become underrated. This was back in like 2016. And people were like, he's not a top 10 guy and all that stuff. And I went through and I was like, yeah, he's a top 10 guy. And this was even before he had, a couple years to finish out his career there. But yeah, I was like, I think people have kind of forgotten how good Kobe was because the end got kind of messy. But yeah, that was one of my things there. And that was kind of, in the end, that's where I ultimately landed out. Now, I'd have to go through it. I don't want to do it on the top of my head because I don't remember where I had him ranked. And I don't remember exactly what my rankings were. And it's time to refresh that. So we'll put that on the list. We'll do that in August.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Let's go here. And this is very simple. No, you can't. Can we get Markkanen and Kessler for D'Lo, Wood, Reddish, and a few picks? No, the Jazz aren't going to do that. they're going to get better offers. They're going to get better offers than that. So that's not
That'd be a
going to happen.
steal for the Lakers if they could. But
Oh, it would be. I mean, if they could, then yes, please. I mean, that's like, don't hang up the phone. Don't let Danny Ainge or whoever it is talk to anybody else. I'm getting the league on the other line. We're calling this in right now. Okay. No, do not talk to anybody. We're putting this through right now. Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Lowry Markkanen into the Spurs. Golden State can't outbid the Spurs. Maybe. I mean,
yeah, we'll see. I think what's interesting there is the Spurs could actually send back a couple youngish players as well as some draft capital. Spurs are sitting on all those like funky pick swaps now too that they could use in trades that are really kind of valuable down the line. So yeah, I wouldn't be super surprised if that's the way it went down.
All right, we're gonna
fit too.
Oh yeah, he'd be fantastic next to Wemby. Let's go.
Yeah.
Ellie said, "Does Stu have his own Instagram handle?" He does not. Maybe I'll have to make one.
I like the idea of Trevor Lane, cat dad, like running around taking hundreds of pics of Stu every day that you gotta and putting them in like little costumes and stuff to dress them up. Like now that's my new favorite thing. That's what I want your summer project to be.
Like I have to force myself to pay attention to Instagram. Yeah. I don't think I could do it for a cat too. Like it's just so. I'm like, why does everything have to be a picture? Like, I just want to I want to talk about what's going on in the sports world and put out the news and everything like that. I don't want to have to make everything a picture. And so Instagram is just not a very obvious fit for me. So I have to like force myself to go do Instagram stuff. I don't think I could, I don't think I would remember or would be able to force myself to do a secondary account for the cat too on top of that.
Yeah. I got Instagram. I want to say it was like 5 years ago. Remember when players were like breaking their own news, like with Instagram lives and stuff? That's when I think I got Instagram. Then I did like update it because we were going to have Threads looked like it maybe was going to be a thing. And then since it isn't, I just stopped using it altogether. I don't like, I have Facebook too, and I don't use Facebook's too many people complaining about stuff all the time.
That's all
like
it is.
You know what I do? I use Facebook for? If I ever go on Facebook,
birthdays.
I watch. I don't even use it for that.
Really?
No, I use it to watch people clearing drains. Like I love those videos. Yeah, people clearing drains, like unclogging, like drains on the street, not like a shower drain, but drains on a street. Yeah, it's amazing. People cutting grass is like I love watching people like cut way overgrown lawns. I think I used to work in landscaping for years and years, and I love that. And then I like watching, this one's the stupidest one. I like watching this guy. It's called Nate the Hoof Guy, and he trims cow hooves. And like it's so like I will literally find myself a half hour deep in cow hoof trimming videos.
This just took a turn.
Yeah,
I was not expecting to wind up here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know how it happened because it went from the drain clearing to the grass cutting to the cow hooves, and like I'm on all of them. Yeah, that's like all I do. It's funny. Somebody just put this in here, and somebody said Nate is awesome. I love it. This is also like a thing that becomes like crazy, like enthralling to watch. It is wild how much earwax they pull out of people's ears, like crazy. If you ever watch those videos,
where are we?
Look at all these people.
How did we wind up here?
Hoof guy, let's go. Nate the Hoof Guy. Shout out to Nate the Hoof Guy. I love it.
How did we wind up here?
I don't know, but that's what I watch. I don't watch them on YouTube because I try to keep my YouTube like kind of clean to basketball and people streaming Grand Theft Auto. That's what I watch on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've got people talking about like pimple popping and all kinds of stuff on here.
Wow. Guy. I love it.
All right.
Yeah. Watch like one or two of them and you're going to be like, so you'll be like, oh man, it's going to be a white line issue on the hoof, on the medial claw. Like he's got some corkscrew action going on. There's a void under it. You'll be all into it big time.
Okay. I'm gonna. What is this? Is this just like a shut your brain off and you can watch this thing type of situation? Or
that becomes like my thing. Is like those are the kind of videos that I just end up watching all the time.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't
All
play
right.
GTA. I only watch people play it online. I don't have, here's the problem. If I got into GTA, like that'd be the end of the show. People would be like, how much cap space does the team have left? I'd be like, I don't know, man. I just robbed an ATM. So like I'm out, but like, yeah, because I'd get obsessed. I have to be very careful with video games. That's where my obsessive like personality comes out. And it's bad. Like I will play those games and like I'll be like, I'm gonna play for an hour tonight before bed, and then next thing you know, it's 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh no, I haven't gone to sleep yet. So I have to be really careful.
Oh, that's not good. Well, I mean, good that you recognize that though.
Yeah. I stay away from
good that you
that
recognize
stuff
that.
now. Yeah,
Good that you
I try to
recognize
be a little slightly more.
That was why when I tried to rope you into a fantasy football league, you were like, okay, and then you went, no, let me get out of this. You know who took your team? It's Alex Kennedy has your team now in that league. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I can't. I used to be super into fantasy football, and like it got way over the top, and I just can't do it. Like I get obsessive about it, and then it's like it's not good. I have unfortunately I have a very addictive personality, which is probably why I'm so fat. But it was just like I can't stick with like I have to actively avoid things, otherwise like I'm gonna get stuck. Yeah, somebody just said Davian Farmer. I know. I am like Trevor knows this. I told him
we've been
I've
talking about
watching
this
to see if the PS5 is going to go on sale, and I may buy it for just for college football 25. And if it does, you're not going to like Trevor. I'm out on shows for the month.
Keith
like,
is
we
gone.
better start banking them because I'm going to be playing that thing all summer long.
All right, let's go. Where were we? Let's go here. AD looks so comfortable with Bam on defense. I hope Rob was really watching. It's something when he gets to play next to another big. It helps when that big is also insanely versatile, like Bam Adebayo, and that But still, that was pretty cool to watch in the Team USA against Canada game.
Did you notice too? Jason Tatum looked way taller than Bam and just as tall as AD. So there's definitely someone's lying about heights here. Someone's lying somewhere about heights. And I think Jason Tatum is I think he's taller than he's probably listed. And maybe a couple other guys are a little shorter, but I was like, holy, like what is happening here? Like he is legit taller than Bam and like as tall as AD. That was when they got into that lineup with what was it? It was Anthony Edwards and was it Halliburton, I think.
Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Tatum, Bam, and AD.
Yeah, that was the lineup that was like, all right, this game's over now. And that's the difference between Team USA. As good as Canada is, like, and they're just don't. It's the depth. It's when you have to start subbing. Now it's Team USA goes to that's what they go to as their backup grouping, like crazy. So yeah, I think they're all right. They're going to win with defense. Like they're going to just lock teams down and they'll score enough to get by.
Let me know about the message that I sent you here in the chat on the show, where you're at with this. If you want to stick around here, if we should, if we want me to save some of these.
Yeah. I'll finish them out. I'll finish this stuff. Yeah.
I've got a little girl that's going to be upset with me if I don't go read her story that I promised her to. So
as it should be.
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump out here. Keith will finish out the rest of these super chats. But guys, thank you everybody. This was a blast. Always fun when we get to come on for some kind of like impromptu NBA discussion. So we appreciate all you being here. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. And Keith's going to stick around for the next few minutes and finish out the rest of the super chats. But I'm going to drop out. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Trevor. All right, guys, we'll run through our remainder of the super chats because I went on way too long about horse hooves and other things here. So, all right, let's get into it. I think, all right, we finished. We did AD there. Venkata asked Tyus Jones to the Clippers, and then he asked again somewhere Tyus Jones to the Clippers. I don't know. I don't know how they would make it work. That's the problem. It would have to be a sign and trade, and they're very close to the apron. So it'd probably have to be Norman Powell gets moved, maybe. And I don't know if they're going to do that. Devian asked, do you think Brooklyn and Ben Simmons do a contract buyout if they don't find a trade? And is there anyone who signed a new deal you see getting traded? Well, we just talked about Josh Okogie. I think that one's definitely set up to be traded down the line. But I think Simmons will be one that will go all the way to the trade deadline. And then what probably happens is the Nets will say, all right, should we move him or not move him? And then they'll either trade him then or they'll buy him out. If they can't trade him, then yeah, they may buy him out because there's really no reason not to, because he's clearly not going to be a part of the future and what they're building. Lou all-time, wave and stretch. Gabe opens a taxpayer Emily. Gabe Vincent's more valuable than that, though. You'd rather have him as $11 million of tradable salary, if nothing else. You don't want to wave and stretch him because he can also play. I think he's going to be good for the Lakers this year. I think they'll be there. Davian, you asked the same thing twice, I think, on this one. Life with Chris. Keith, I'm a Pistons fan. What other moves can we do? It's probably at this point, if there's a team or two that wants to get off a contract, or they've got, I think their big thing is running into roster spots. Now they're starting to get tighter on roster spots. So there maybe is one more signing. Maybe they could be somebody who looks at Gary Trent and says, hey, you want like 15 million? Because they have a way to get to that much. We can give you that much. We'll do a 1-year deal, kind of a version of the Bruce Brown contract. And that could be the way they do that. And I'm just picking Trent out of thin air. I mean, I guess they could do that with Tyus Jones if they wanted, or, pick your favorite unsigned guy and they could kind of do that. Ellie, I'll answer this one. Stu on Twitter. I don't think Trevor's going to do it. I think, like you said, he's got enough time to manage his own stuff, but maybe. Never know. Well, I'll make sure he sees that one. I'll make sure he knows. And then I'm going to finish with this one from Joseph Archie. Spot Track used to have a roster building feature. Is it ever coming back? Yes. The manage tool is what it's called. It will come back. We are really, what we're in process on right now is tightening up and fixing all of the rules. For the trade machine, it's very easy because you just got to get the trade rules. Well, let me rephrase. It's not been easy. It's been a bear to even build the trade machine now. But you have to build out all the rules correctly, or there's no reason to do that, right? You're just in a spot where you want to put tools out there that are accurate and work correctly. So with the manage tool, because for anybody who doesn't know, our manage tool on Spot Track allows you to take a team and then basically run through the entire offseason with them, where you can waive guys, you can sign guys, you can renounce free agents, you can do trades. So it's like the trade machine on steroids. But in order to get it right, we have a lot of logic we need to build in to the back end. So we don't want to just turn on tools that can't be used, that aren't going to be valuable tools to be used here. So so that's where that is. And then one more super chat snuck in. This is definitely the last one, so don't send any more super chats, guys. Venkata, can Clippers acquire DFS or Cam? It's the same story. They don't have enough room under the first apron hard cap. They would have to move, very likely Norman Powell would have to be the salary match, unless they're talking about Zubac, who I don't think is going to happen because they need him. They don't have any ability to get guys like that. So they're going to be in a spot where it's going to be pretty tough for them to do anything else. They've done a lot already. We'll see where it goes. On that note, we're going to call it a night here on Front Office Show. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with Trevor and I. We got a little silly there about what I like to watch on YouTube, but we had a lot of fun with that. It was great. We'll be back tomorrow, Front Office Friday. We'll let you know on time. We always work that out in the morning based on what's going on, probably somewhere around the noontime Eastern hour, maybe a little bit later. But we'll let you know. Watch our socials for that, for Trevor and I. But thanks for hanging out here with us on Front Office Overtime. It was great. It was a blast hanging out with you guys this evening, and we'll see y'all tomorrow afternoon.